In today's Leeds news, international call-ups, under-21's win and get to the semis, Neil tries to unsettle Leeds, £10 million windfall a step closer, Leeds published accounts and expecting a substantial loss, and Calvin Phillips rumour debunked. Morning folks, Jay here at The View for your news on Wednesday morning the 12th of March. And there's a little bit of stuff to get stuck in. Financial reports are out as well. Just to give you a quick update, last night there was the preview ahead of tonight's game against Millwall. Leeds have an open door again to extend their lead at top of the table if they can get a win tonight against Millwall, and there will be a watch along over on Big Up later on this evening, starting a little bit earlier than the game kick-off. You can check that out on the community tab later on today, or head over to bigup.com where the stream is scheduled. Right, let's crack on and get into the news, and we'll start off with some international call-up news. And Junior Firpo will link up with the Dominican Republic during the upcoming international break after being announced in their squad for what appears to be two friendly games against the same side, and he will play Puerto Rico twice during this break in international friendlies. Firpo has 3 goals and 3 assists in the 10 games he's played for the Dominican Republic so far. But let's hope he doesn't come back injured or with any kind of a knock after what appears to be 2 very unnecessary friendlies against the exact same team over this international window. So, strange one for me, that one. Brendan Aronson has been left out of the US men's national team this time around and will have a bit of a rest after starting 34 championship games for Leeds United this season. Aronson's form is a likely factor. He has been pretty much off form in the last 12 games for Leeds. And Mauricio Pochettino has said there are too many players and Aronson will need to wait for the next international window for his call-up. It could be a blessing in disguise coming into the run, and Leeds will need as many players fresh as they can. Aronson is desperately in need of some form of a rest, whether it's rotating him out of the team for a little bit or just giving him a break during the international break. He definitely needs some time off. He's looking very, very leggy and tired this season. It's a long season. He hasn't played this kind of amount of games, I don't think, ever. So yeah, his form's not great right now, and Leeds have to look at that tonight as well. So we'll talk about that later on. Moving on, let's talk about the under-21s who are in a semi-final, and the under-21s put in a top performance last night to beat Aldershot Town 3-1 on the road. Goals from Ollie Pickles and 2 from Reece Chadwick in what is becoming a really, really impressive season for Chadwick so far. But Leeds will now go into the last 4 of the National League Cup competition and have a chance of picking up some silverware this season. Also, a massive congratulations to Jack Morris, who made his under-21 debut last night in that win. Also, just a point to note on this, no Sam Chambers and no Harry Gray in the under-21 squad last night. That might mean nothing. It might mean something. I'm sure we'll find out later on tonight, but just thought I'd give you that news, and thanks to Lockie for giving me a heads up last night on that one. Moving on, let's talk about the game tonight, and let's talk about Alex Neil's comments trying to unsettle Leeds heading into the game. Millwall have the hoodoo over Leeds United so far this season, and their what appears to be biggest achievement of the season was knocking Leeds United out of the FA Cup, only for them to exit the cup in the following round. But now Alex Neil has had a few words to say about this and is trying to upset the apple cart just a little bit coming into the game. Leeds changed 10 players for the FA Cup clash against Millwall, but Neil himself has insisted that he changed multiple players as well in that, and he knows that Leeds are upset and they may have poked the bear a little bit. On his full comments, Neil said the following: "You can look at this 2 ways. We've poked the bear, shall we say, and upset them a little bit. Leeds are an outstanding team. They're fighting for a title. They've been the best team this season when I've watched them, so it's going to be a really tough match for us. But listen, I think we are confident, and I've said it before, we will go anywhere and we'll give it a go. Will we always play brilliant football every game? No. But what we will do is we'll compete, we'll be there, and we will fight." Leeds will need to be up for a fight tonight against Millwall, likely to be a similar looking game to Portsmouth, a physical battle there. And if you look at Leeds United's statistics over the last 2 games, Leeds have lost more duels in the last 2 games than they've won, and they've also lost more 50-50 battles in the last 2 games as well, so they'll need to rectify that. Should also be pointed out, Millwall's travelling support will be significantly reduced after they've returned the bulk of their tickets that they were allocated, only selling 391 tickets for tonight's game, which means Leeds United will have a bigger allocation, and they're on sale right now for anyone that wants to pick them up. Also last night, Burnley losing Egan Riley and Scott Parker, both getting red cards, and Egan Riley could miss their next 3 games, who's been a significant factor for them, one of their highest rated players of the season, and the draw they got last night, as well as Sheffield United dropping points, means Leeds United have a huge opportunity going into tonight to get back to the top of the league and open that 5-point gap to third place Burnley. First or second, honestly, doesn't matter. but that gap to that third place team does matter, and Leeds need to keep pushing ahead with that. Let's move on. Let's talk about a cash windfall that could be coming Leeds United's way. And when Leeds United sold Raphinha to Barcelona for a then discounted fee compared to what Chelsea had been offering Leeds, it was all designed to help the Brazilian to complete a move to his dream club after he had stayed a season longer with Leeds to help Leeds. But Leeds did put in some contractual clauses that might see Leeds pick up a few quid that will bring it back to that level that Chelsea were bidding at the time. 3 years later, Raphinha is now being heavily tipped to win the Ballon d'Or, and currently his statistics are way ahead of what Vinicius Jr. had last season when he organised a very public party to celebrate winning the Ballon d'Or before Rodri then picked up the award. So as it stands right now, his statistics say he's right on course to win this. Raphinha scored 2 more goals this week for Barcelona in the Champions League. That brings his total goal contributions in all competitions this season to 46 goal contributions in 44 games, 27 goals and 19 assists so far, which is double what he clocked up in his first 2 seasons at Barcelona combined. If he should pick up the Ballon d'Or award, there is a clause in the agreement with Leeds United that would see Leeds pick up £10 million as a result of the deal that was negotiated. But we will have to see what Barcelona's finances are like at that point. Barcelona did take out a loan in order to pay Leeds upfront costs to bring Raphinha over to Barcelona, so their finances aren't great right now. They've got a couple of players that they can't register. Whether Leeds can get 10 million quid out of them remains to be seen, but it is a contractual agreement, so at some point it will have to be paid in some way, shape or form. But well done to Raphinha, having a cracking season. It's great to see a former Leeds United player operating at the very, very top of world football, so congratulations to him. Moving on, let's talk about the financial results that are due to be published shortly. It's no real surprise though to Leeds fans, given our second season in the Championship, that Leeds are expected to share a financial loss over the last 12-month period, and has been labelled a significant operating loss is expected to be announced. Football finance expert Kieran Maguire was speaking to the Yorkshire Evening Post yesterday, and he expects last year's finances to reflect a difficult financial year for Leeds United, as it covers the first season out of the Premier League. Maguire says that United are expected to report substantial operating losses, but he believes that profits from player sales will offset some of the operating losses. Fortunately for Leeds, they are not expected to have any PSR breaches during this period, which means that Leeds will not be subject to any sporting sanctions or financial sanctions, anything including points deductions, transfer embargoes or fines. Leeds relegation saw a broadcasting reduction of £95 million. The parachute payments cover about 50% of that. They're down to 40% this year, and next year will drop to 20%, showing that Leeds really do need to get out of this division this season. Maguire says that Leeds will also see a significant reduction in their commercial revenue due to the relegation, and wages are a key driving factor in terms of Leeds United's cost. Leeds did put in 60% wage reductions for all the players that were part of the Premier League squad that went down, so that will have some impact on that, but the wage bill, as we all know, is still pretty substantial for Leeds this season as well. But he does say that player sales like Archie Gray, at the timing of Archie Gray, will have absorbed a large portion of the operating losses for the club. Leeds will most likely post a loss, as we say, for the 23-24 season, but the Yorkshire Evening Post say that the results in this do not reflect the sales of Crescencio Somerville, Jorginho Rutter and any of the other players that were sold after the June 30th deadline in the summer, and they will be reflected in the next set of financial reports that will be released at this time next season. That 30th of June PSR deadline is the important one. We talked an awful lot about that, and then Archie went pretty much bang on that 30th deadline. But we will see what the results look like, and when they are released, we will try and speak to Kieran Maguire and see if he'll come onto the channel and have a chat and put some detail behind the data, I suppose, at that point, but we'll talk to him later on. And then moving on to the final story of today, and I wasn't going to bother covering this at all, but some more news has come out this morning to clarify the story, and that's related to Calvin Phillips, covering this more so to get it out of the way than anything else. But as I say, there has been some clarification on this story that came out yesterday. Team Talk put out a story saying that Leeds United had a verbal agreement in place with Calvin Phillips for his return to the club should Leeds get promoted to the Premier League. Leeds sold Phillips to Manchester City for £42 million 3 seasons ago, and Team Talk say that there could be a deal in place for £20 million return to the club. They say that Leeds have kept track of Phillips and that 12 months ago Leeds came very close to agreeing a deal for the player to come back at that point. City are now said to not be standing in the way of Calvin Phillips should he decide to move after 3 years of really struggling at Premier League level, not just with Manchester City but also with West Ham and this season with Ipswich. I have spoken to somebody in Team Talk, and like myself and most of you, they don't believe that this deal will actually happen. The player's wages, the fee, his form, and the fact that he's struggled in a double pivot system, all factors in this, the system issue being a big part of this. He had his best year under Marcelo Bielsa when he was the single number 6. Since then, moving into double pivots, he hasn't looked the same player at all. However, today, Ben Jacobs has been speaking, and he says that Leeds United do not have a verbal agreement in place with Calvin Phillips, and Leeds are not looking at bringing Calvin Phillips back to the club in the summer. Instead, he said, Leeds are factoring in 2 other players for a combined £30 million fee instead of a £20 million fee for Calvin Phillips. He also says that Calvin Phillips' £150,000 salary per week is a major factor in why Leeds would not move for the player, again considering the form he has shown over the last couple of seasons. Jacobs says that Leeds are far more focused now on completing the move of Manor Solomon to the club on a permanent basis, as well as Cameron Archer, and they believe a £30 million price tag for combined for both of those players is what Leeds are looking at. The Archer deal also, just to be saying this at this point, also looks like a bit of a reach because he hasn't really shone in the Premier League with any promoted sides, and as Leeds will be a promoted side, hopefully next season he goes right back into that category as well. Maybe if you put better players around him, he can produce more, but I think we've seen enough this season to know that this Leeds United side would need significant upgrading in order to be able to survive life in the Premier League. But that's a conversation for the summer, but right now we'll see how we get on. But yeah, there's the clarification on the Phillips story. Leeds had a verbal agreement. No, they don't. Move on. And we'll likely hear more Calvin Phillips stuff before at the end of the season, but we'll try and make sure we get you the full balanced opinion on this before we put out any kind of stories about him. Folks, that'll be it for me today. I'll be back this evening on bigup.com for a watch along. We'll have some form of a review from the game tomorrow night, and we'll have the news out tomorrow morning. I will talk to you then. Enjoy the rest of your game. Fingers crossed for 3 points tonight. See you later.